I've got two really large questions that I'd like to put in front of you and see what you would say. One has to do with the way that you conceptualize the social world. You think of it in terms of large structures. When Chuck was asked this question, he talked about individuals in interaction with each other. I wonder where your kind of social imagination locates the social. And then the second large question, and I don't mean in tremendous detail, is what's your own view of what is the best we can hope for in terms of the scientific understanding of social phenomena?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So first, the social.
Yeah. Well, as you've probably gathered from what we've been saying, I'm a middle-range person. Mm-hmm. I'm inherently suspicious of general law theories, which is why I'm not hostile, but prudent about my rational choice friends. But I'm equally suspicious of highly phenomenologically distinct analyses, what I call local theory. I'm a middle-range person, and so I guess I'm more interested in phenomena that are generalizable but contextualized. And so the question of what the social is hard for me to answer in any general way. I guess since all of my work has been done in relatively pluralistic advanced societies, if I were to try and formulate an answer, it would be an answer about those societies. And in those societies, I think I have focused in my career on a small number of processes. I said earlier I'm interested in brokerage. I'm also deeply interested in coalition formation, because I think that's how you get things done in advanced pluralistic societies. I'm also very interested in diffusion. I see the diffusion of social innovations as being one of the important ways in which societies change. And I'm also interested in the not so much passive, but not immediately observable results of social processes. Take the research I did on social movements in Italy in the 1960s and 70s. Almost everybody in Italy who studied that period ended up seeing it as destructive. And the reason they saw it as destructive is that it caused enormous chaos, tremendous economic stagnation, deaths, murders, assassinations in the latter period. When I looked at that period, I saw it as a period opening up Italian democracy. With all of its faults, Italy after the mid-1970s was a country in which debate was more open, less elitist. Reform was more incremental than it had been before. So I guess one thing that has persistently interested me about social processes are the not immediately observable results of large-scale social change. Now, with respect to your second question, which was what? I've forgotten already.
What are the kind of ideal results of social science research and knowledge?
Yeah. I remember the cynicism of my first research mentor, Heinz Uhlau, who I worked for a year when he came to visit Berkeley from Stanford. And I told him about my interest in policy and my interest in trying to matter as a social scientist. And he said, politicians use social scientists as a dog uses a lamppost, not for illumination, but for support. And I was struck by that cynicism, rejected it. I guess I'm less idealistic than I was once about direct impact of social science information, in part because of the Eulau theorem, but in part because social scientists have so often been wrong. Think of the economists who've been advising our government for the past 20 or 30 years, usually advising them wrongly, very often missing events that were about to occur. But I am more hopeful in that I believe social processes sometimes have unintended results. Let me give you one example. When I studied the impact of May 1968 in France, it was during a period, the 1970s, of widespread disillusionment with French politics on the part of academics. Much of the gains of the 1968 generation were lost in the months and years that followed. The country moved into a period of unreconstructed conservatism. The trade unions continued to lose membership. The peasant movement, which I'd observed in parts of France, had turned into a corporatist interest group that was rapidly moving into capitalist farming. And yet, when we look back at the 1968 generation, with the wisdom that history gives us, we can see that a number of changes occurred in French politics that opened it up to a more modern debate, which made it less elitist, which produced the possibility for people who were outside the traditional social and political elite to make their way in French politics and French society. Look at the current president. Whatever one thinks of his craziness and his politics, he is a self-made man. He was the son of immigrants. He's 1/4 Jewish. Imagine a French politician who becomes president who has Jewish blood in a country which has the anti-Semitic history that we know it has. He has divorced one wife and married another who was not only a movie star but was a foreigner within a period of 3 months. This would never have happened in de Gaulle's day, when de Gaulle was president of France and practically the king. So I think the biggest challenge for social scientists, especially those interested in the dynamics of change, is to try and understand the links between historical episodes and their long-run outcomes, which are often very different than what the short-range outcomes would predict.
Well, I really appreciate your time having a good conversation about these topics, which are just so endlessly fascinating. And I think there's an awful lot to build on. So I thank you very much.
Thank you.